Guts and Ghouls podcast. For the last year, you have been judging films, deciding whether they're good or bad. Now, it is your turn to be judged. Injected inside of you is a poison coursing through your veins. If you don't give my movie, Saw X, a good review, you will die. Let the game begin. Oh no, I've seemed to find myself in a Saw-type situation. But that's okay, because Saw X is here. And despite the title, no, it doesn't take place in space, as awesome as that would be. However, it does take place between Saw 1 and 2, so it works more as a prequel. But John Kramer is back, Amanda Young is back, and there's another person that's back, but I'm not going to spoil it. You'll have to stick around for the end credits for that. But Saw X deviates itself from more of the later entries by, rather than following the dumbest cops you've ever seen or the victims of the Jigsaw killer, it actually followed Jigsaw himself, which is actually a very refreshing take. And it's a great use of Tobin Bell, because let me tell you, he carries this movie. While I do really enjoy the film and I have a lot of great things to say about it, I'm going to get my main gripe out of the way, and it's the way the film handles John Kramer himself. They definitely treat him as a hero. In context, Saw X follows John as he goes for an experimental cancer treatment down in Mexico, and they actually screw him over, and they don't do anything, and they take his money, and he finds them and puts them through a game. And while that does sound, like a lot of the other Saws, because this one focuses more on John, they really make him a lot more empathetic. However, they seem to gloss over the fact that John Kramer is still a serial killer. There's actually a part where there's a child in danger, and John Kramer is desperately trying to save him. But I don't know if you remember in Saw 1, when he forced a guy to shoot an innocent child and wife. So that doesn't really line up for me. And that's really my main and only gripe with the film, is the treatment of John Kramer. Just like every good Saw film, the traps are there. They're very good this time. They use medical equipment, the same equipment that the people used on John, so he's kind of turning it back on them. I won't give too many of the traps away, but I will say my favorite is a woman had to saw off her leg with piano wire and then use a little vacuum to suck out the bone marrow from her leg, and once she collects enough bone marrow, she won't be decapitated. I think it's really fun, and it's a new fun bodily substance that I haven't seen used much in horror movies, which I appreciate. Not only does Saw X feel like a more return to form to the originals, it has that same ADHD monster energy drink level of editing that we expect from a Saw movie that I feel like they kind of got away from after 5. But this really does feel like something straight out of the early 2000s, but sort of a bit more modernized, because we definitely do get a lot more backstory rather than just being thrusted into a Saw game, which is actually very refreshing. And of course, it wouldn't be a Saw movie without a twist, and I will say the twist is there. While it's not as great as any of the older twists, I think that's mostly due to the fact that this is a prequel, so there isn't a whole lot of stakes, because we know nothing bad will happen to John and Amanda because they're still kicking in Saw 2 and 3. But Saw X is a breath of fresh air for the franchise, and we know it desperately needed it. And I really hope they do Saw 11, and I hope Tobin Bell is still kicking in order to do it, because I definitely think there's a lot to go off of here, even though they are all going to have to be prequels to 3. Perfectly okay. I would highly recommend Saw X. If you haven't seen a Saw movie before, you're probably okay to understand what's going on. There's a lot of context they give you in the beginning, so you kind of know where everyone is. I would say if to optimally watch it, at least see Saw 1 and 2. You're probably fine with just seeing the original, but 2 will definitely explain Amanda's character a bit more, because you may be like, who the hell is this crazy lady? So definitely, I would say optimally watch Saw 1 and 2. So definitely check out Saw X. If you want a more detailed review, we have an episode of our podcast coming up where we fully talk about it and we go deep
into the Kramer universe. So listen to that if you want sort of a more in-depth discussion of the film. So thank you for watching.
Piranha.